and welcome to another episode of Mad Rewind. I am your host, Brandee Stilwell. I'm super excited to introduce to you my guest today. As you can tell, we are in my home office because my guest is in Canada. Couldn't make it into Burbank, apparently. So we're doing the best that we can. But Mad Rewind fans, you are in for a treat. My guest today is Mr. Ron Pederson. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on to do the show.
I wanted to come to Burbank, but I'm just I'm afraid of ice, Brandee, as a Canadian.
Who the fuck is it? Hopefully that fucking nightmare will be over for every human being city. I'm just gonna start the ball rolling, and
Amazing.
I'm gonna do a little intro for you, Ron.
All right.
Ron Pederson joined the cast of MADtv in season 8, appearing in 68 episodes for 3 seasons. Some of Ron's MADtv characters included Grandpa Finkel, over-the-top Australian verb alert spokesperson Roland Backerson, and the very lovable and rambunctious co-host of 7 a.m. Condo Report, Clifford Bosley. We're going to be talking about Clifford here in a little bit because 7 a.m. Condo Report is my favorite. Oh, my God. I want to talk about you being able to control that scooter as well, because I can only imagine what could happen. What could possibly go wrong on a scooter when you're in front of a live audience? Right?
There were injuries, I recall.
I can't wait to hear. Ron's impressions ranged from Clay Aiken to Prince Harry to Woody Allen to David Hyde Pierce to Saddam Hussein, because, why not?
Woody Allen and Saddam Hussein together
one
at
and the
last.
Same. Rip the Scooby-Doo mask off. To Adam Levine to Art Carney, just to name a few. After MADtv, Ron appeared on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, The Next Step, When Hope Calls, Degrassi, The Next Generation, and he has lent his voice to the animated series Sidekick as the voice of Golly G Kid. But above and beyond all of that, Ron is an actor, improviser, director, and writer who has worked across Canada at multiple prestigious theaters. As an improviser, Ron has also collaborated with companies in Berlin, Oslo, Vienna, Amsterdam, Chicago, and New York City. Ron is the recipient of multiple Canadian awards, such as the Dora Maver Moore Award, the Summer Works Performance Award, the RBC Arts Professional Award, and is a Second City alum. What? High five, freeze frame, Ron.
High five. Second City Hollywood. Second City Hollywood.
Yeah,
that's where it started.
I'm not as cool.
That's where it started. That's where it started for me in Los Angeles.
Oh, really? What years were you there?
I didn't really belong to anybody there. That was to get right into the story. I was performing here in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm actually in the theater I worked in before I came to MADtv, and Joe Flaherty. The great Joe Flaherty had invited me. He loved our troupe in Edmonton. He had come and visited and guested with us.
What was the name of your troupe?
It's called Dynasty, the live improvised soap opera, which was my way into improv, actually. I had grown up in Edmonton and hated hockey. And my parents were, great. I had a great childhood, and they put me into acting classes when I was like 8 years old. So I was kind of already in it. But by the time I started improvising, I was kind of taking myself maybe too seriously as an actor. But Joe Flaherty, the famous Joe Flaherty from SCTV, who I grew up watching, became a friend of mine, and he had invited me to Los Angeles because he wanted to start up his own improv soap opera. And he ran one for a while out of the Second City. It was called The Soap Also Rises.
Okay.
Because it was all set in Paris in the 20s. Joe Flaherty was obsessed with Paris in the 20s.
Okay.
So I was there playing. I was playing James Joyce's brother, Jacko Joyce, with this Irish accent, because Joe Flaherty had seen me in a play as well, in a serious play, a Martin McDonagh play, and he said, "Just do that Irish character." So I did. That's the character I was playing when MADtv, the casting agent Julie Ashton, came to see Joe's soap, because Martin Short had guested the week before, and he called Dick Blasucci at MADtv.
Yeah,
it's
on the Besties.
Pardon me.
Dick Blasucci and Marty Short are best friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's this long SCTV lucky streak that I was on, because improvising with Joe, I got to improvise with Marty. I got to improvise with Catherine O'Hara. That was amazing. I could have died and been done, just doing that. I remember looking down, performing, and seeing Catherine O'Hara laughing at something I did, and that was heaven.
Yeah. Back in the day, I worked at Family Guy, and I left Family Guy to take a job at Glenn Martin DDS, which was a stop motion animated show. And Catherine played the lead female. She was the mother. So I got to work with her too. And I have a cat named Socialite Mora Rose. She has new eyes. Since I home, we're not going to rule out that you might have a special guest appearance from Catherine's sake. But every single day I was in the room with Catherine O'Hara was a gosh darn treat. It was, and I was aware of it.
Yeah.
I was there for that one. So I can only imagine.
Yes. I mean, I was very starstruck, and that, Fred Willard also came and played. It was a really cool time. And, and because Marty, called Dick, they came to check me out the next week. And I think that because I had so much, I kind of had my 10,000 hours in Edmonton, because we did this improvised soap opera. We did a thing called the Soap-a-Thon, which is like 50 hours of improv, and you could sign up and do as many as you wanted. And I would just go.
You just did 50 hours straight.
I once did the whole thing. Yes. Which was a real acid trip, totally hallucinogenic. I highly recommended. But I got a lot of reps, and and I was also doing Shakespeare and musicals, and I was very lucky. Edmonton, in particular, in the 90s, growing up, it was a very culturally amazing city. And there were sketch comedy troupes. There was improv. There's the Fringe Festival here, is the biggest in North America. So it's a theater town. So I grew up just saturated in it. And so when I just got there to do Joe's soap on a lark, it was just for fun. I wasn't coming to get a TV show or be famous, but
right.
It was just to hang out with Joe. And then everything changed, because improv and comedy was what I thought I did on my day off in a lot of ways. I was like, oh, that's, I was playing Romeo. I was like, again, taking myself too seriously. So it was a big left turn in my life. And it was amazing.
Well, I'm probably going to circle back to some of that here in a little bit. But off the bat, one of my favorite things I love to ask people is when did you know, Ron Pederson, when did you know that you were funny? Or do you remember your first laugh?
That's a great question. I always felt like I had funny people around me. My dad's funny. My mom tells a great story. They were fans of comedy. We laughed together. I think we still do. We're still kind of a goofy group of people, and we make each other laugh. I know that when I was about 17, when I started doing improv, and I knew that I could I could get a laugh. Probably in that Soap-a-Thon. That was when I ventured in. And one of the first characters that I did was Woody Allen. I was like trying to figure out who to be. And my friend, I had been doing the impression backstage at a play. And he was like, just do that. And there were some glasses and it was a way in to improvise. It was a great way in to just have a character. Unfortunately, it was Woody Allen, but you know,
if only it was Steve Martin or somebody
God.
that just kept a reputation.
Well, you know, I mean, Steve Martin's, you know, love him too. But yeah, around when I was like 16 or 17, I had already been acting and I had already been in some comedies, but I didn't. It was around then that people started going, "You're funny." You know, which I embraced, I think.
So who were your childhood comedy heroes? Would it have been like your parents because you could make them laugh or you guys laughed together? Or was it, you know, late night TV?
Yeah. John Ritter comes to mind when you say that. I was I was kind of a nut for Three's Company as a young kid. Just his physicality and confidence. He's hilarious. And I actually got to meet him in Los Angeles. He was in a bookstore and I called Nicole Sullivan of MADtv fame because I knew she had been on Hollywood Squares with him. And and I said, Nicole, I'm in a bookstore and John Ritter's here. And it's like, I'm freaking out, man. And like, should I say hi? And she's like, oh, please go over and say I said hello. And so she gave me this intro and I just walked over to him. I was like, Mr. Ritter. And he was like, hey, how are you? He was immediately engaging. And he talked about MADtv, how much he loved it. And it was, that was amazing to meet it. I mean, that was kind of my Hollywood experience. I got to meet all these people like Catherine O'Hara and Fred Willard and, you know, Christopher Guest through MADtv. It's amazing. You know, Eric Idle, you know, I met all those people through MADtv. So Monty Python was huge for me. Kids in the Hall, of course, as a Canadian, Kids in the Hall was huge.
Okay. And so did your parents like let you watch like say SCTV since that was
Canadian? Oh yeah. Yes, for sure. And I can remember us laughing together at reruns of that show and I remember my parents laughing at it more than I remember laughing at it until later. I didn't really get onto it until later, but it was always I always knew who John Candy and like it's part of my consciousness very early. I guess that's being Canadian. And Edmonton, they filmed some of SCTV in Edmonton. They filmed a couple of seasons here. They were, I don't know if you know that SCTV story, but they were all over the map taping that show. Mm-hmm. It was always canceled and then resurrected. And an Edmonton producer came through and said, well, you can come here and use our studio. So there's a lot of pride in SCTV here. And that's why Joe loved to come to Edmonton. He was always recognized and, you know, hailed.
So you touched base a little bit earlier on your comedy education. And can you just kind of go back through a little bit and like navigate was it your parents that were like, okay, you're going to be a theater kid. You can't do hockey. We've seen it. We need to get you on stage. So can you kind of like just guide me through your education?
Yeah, well,
in the comedy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the acting school came out of me talking about pretending all the time. You know, I loved playing Indiana Jones in the backyard and that sort of stuff. So, you know, my mom works in a hospital. My dad runs an auto body shop. You know, I'm bizarre to them. They kind of figured me out and found a place for me. And like I said, theater school, I was having fun with it. It was imaginative and I loved language as well. And that was part of that. But when it came to improv comedy, the Varscona Theater where I was doing plays is where I met. They would also do theater sports here. and they did a late night improv show called Chimprov, and then there was Dynasty on Monday. So there was lots of improv around me, and I was doing a play here, and somebody said, "Come and do theater sports one night," and I don't know, I just started playing. I and got to it, came to it easily. It was very natural immediately, improvising. And one of my guiders, I guess I would say, is a guy named Dana Anderson, who is part of Second City Toronto. He was in Mike Myers' cast. And he also opened the Second City Santa Monica, which the building is still in Santa Monica. The Mayfair Theater, I think it's still sitting there, like with scaffolding around it, with a big crack down the front of it, because there was a giant earthquake in the 90s. And they had to shut down the Mayfair. But the Second City, so the Second City Santa Monica never really worked out. But he was a part of that cast. And then he moved back to Edmonton and he directed the soaps. So he was kind of my improv guru. And he was a Del Close disciple. So lots of anarchy. And he's a very physical improviser, and it was very theatrical. Again, the jokes would come out of character, and I was really into long form. Long form was my game. And I think that's why I developed characters. With short form, you only get a couple minutes, but long form improvised soap opera, I'd come back every week playing the same character, or you could go for hours in the Soap-a-Thon. We would do improvised plays in the style of playwrights, spoofing them. So it's just a different kind of improv that was character based.
Okay. Do you remember the first character that you ever created? Not an impression of someone else, but like the very first original character that you created.
I do. And it was during the Fringe, again, an improvised soap opera. And it was my friend named the character, but it was a British sort of performer. That was like his name was Simpkin Tynes, and he had like a boater hat and a seersucker suit. It all came out of the costume, I think. Seersucker suit and a boater hat, and he kind of had a cane, and he's kind of a music hall performer. But he was he was very fey and English and fantastical and bizarre, totally absurd character. So that I just went with the absurdity with that one for sure. And I think I was encouraged to do that because I was afraid to, I think, I hid behind that impression at first, and developing characters, improvising, it takes a little bit of craft and thinking and also just jumping off the fucking diving board. So, Simpkin Tynes.
So you kind of touched on this a few minutes ago, but I wanted to know more about the audition process. So Dick Blasucci and Marty had come to see Joe at Second City Hollywood. So were you immediately like pulled aside and like, hey, we're doing, and a cattle call or whatever, come on in? What was the process for that?
Well, the real story is we were performing at the Second City Hollywood, which was on Melrose beside the Improv, right beside the Improv. I don't know if you remember that. And
I don't.
For 2002. And then we went upstairs at the Improv afterward. I had a drink. I was having a drink with Marty and Joe. And Joe was like, Marty, don't you think we should get Ron up at the Second City? We should get him on the Second City. And Marty was like, yeah, we should. And then the night went on and Marty left and Joe and I went home, and I was staying in the Highland Gardens Hotel. I don't know if you know what that is. It used to be called Camp Hollywood. It's where a lot of Canadians would stay. It's right on Franklin by the Magic Castle. It's by the Magic Castle.
Yes, and, I think that's the hotel now.
Okay. It's where it's where Janis Joplin died. It used to be called the Landmark in the 60s.
Yeah, that's the Magic Castle Hotel.
Right. So I was staying there in this dingy room, and Joe calls, and he's like, did anybody call you? Did anybody call you? And I'm like, no. He goes, okay, you're going to get a phone call. You're going to get a phone call. Then he hung up, and the phone rang again, and it was Andrew Alexander, you know, the guy who runs Second City. And he was like, listen, Marty and Joe really like you, and we want to fly you to Chicago, and, you know, we're going to audition you for the main stage, and we're really excited. I was like, holy shit. Hung up the phone. Joe phones back. He goes, hey, did anybody call you? And I'm like, yeah, Andrew Alexander called. And he goes, okay, don't agree to anything. MADtv is going to come and see you. So this was the night after Marty. So yeah, Marty had called Dick, and he was like, they're going to come see you at the next show. So the next show, Julie Ashton. They sent Julie Ashton. I guess Dick must have been there. I think I met Dick. That must have been when I met Dick. Dick and Julie Ashton came, and they were like, yeah, so can you come in on Monday with 5 characters and an impression, right? That was the usual protocol. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Because of, again, those 10,000 hours I had at Simpkin Tynes, which I didn't use, I don't think, but I had a bunch of absurd characters, and I wasn't nervous about any of it because it was just sort of unfolding in this Taoist way. And I just went with it. So yeah. So then I did the 5 characters for Julie Ashton on that Monday. And then I think the next day I did it again for Dick, and I must have met Lauren Dombrowski, the wonderful Lauren Dombrowski. And they were like, great, Ron. How long are you in LA? And I was like, I'm kind of running out of money. I'm going to go back to Canada. I'm supposed to be in a Shakespeare play. And they said, okay, well, we'll probably bring you back in a month. And they did. And they brought me back a month later. And I did, there was like one more round. It was very interesting because they had a bunch of actors from Chicago, New York. We were all staying in the same hotel, the Grafton Hotel, if I remember. And so we all had met each other and then taken a ride over to one of the studios. And then we had a day where we were each going in, doing our characters, reading scenes with other performers. They bought us Chinese food, and this went on all day. And I got to know all these people. There were about 16 people that were auditioning along with me. And the next morning, and then they said, okay, great. Tomorrow is the network test. And so I went back to the hotel. And then the next morning they called, Julie Ashton's office called and said, hi, Ron, just to let you know, you will be going to test this morning. And I was like, oh yeah, I thought I always was. And they were like, no, yesterday was an elimination. I didn't realize that the day before I thought it was like they were seasoning us but so I went downstairs of the hotel to go to the test, and all 16 other actors were going home.
Wow.
And Dylan picked me up. I met Dylan, and he took me to Fox Studio, and I walked into the waiting room, and there were 16 other people I had never seen there. Ike Barinholtz was one of them, and Josh Myers was one of them, and Simon Hallberg was one of them.
Okay, yeah.
And there was a fellow from Mr. Show there that I recognized, and Ike and I still talk about it because we sat right beside each other before going in to do the final test, and I think I said, God, I could use a drink. and he's like, yeah, me too. And then we both got the show and had a drink months later when we met again. But I remember meeting Ike that way.
Did any of the characters that you auditioned with, your original characters, did they ever make it into Mad?
So that Irish character I was doing did make it into the audition. It was an Irish guy that was talking. It was just gibberish. You couldn't understand what he was saying anyway. I was taking it was just this bit of doing Irish gibberish. but they worked it into commercials around the world. I don't know if you remember that one. It was Aries hosting a show about commercials from around the world. This one was, I did the Irish one. This was one of the first things I taped, actually. It's not, if not the first thing. And so the Irish commercial it's an Irish guy, and he's at a pub, and he's talking directly to the camera. Well, you don't know what you're taking it for, and 10, you're having your 7, and you don't know what he's saying. And then suddenly people start jeering at him, and then they're throwing garbage at him, and he smashes the glass on his head. It's just completely insane. And you don't know what he's saying. And then the Chiron comes up, and it's a cereal commercial. Cracklin' McPoofs, get your just absurd commercial. And then the next one was the Italian one, which is where I met Mo. The day I met Mo, we had to kiss and make out. It is an Italian couple shouting at each other. Again, it's a commercial. They're yelling at each other, and then suddenly they just start kissing and making out. Mama. Oh, that's what it's a mother and son. Mama. Geppetto, Mama, Geppetto. And then they start making out, and it's revealed to be a vacuum commercial. It was just a very absurd sketch, which is right up my alley. But yeah, that Irish guy got in there, and the Woody Allen impression, of course, found its way into some sketches.
So since you have an incredible comedy background, how involved were you in sketch writing?
Yeah. Well, I think, I've listened to your podcast, and it's interesting to hear other people talk about, the protocol and the scenario, because you weren't encouraged necessarily to write as cast members. They wanted you to pitch an idea and then pair up with a writer, and then they would fashion it. And I did that a lot. There were quite a few things. I can think of the Filthy Mime. That was just a short little opener. It was a filthy mime that I wrote with Michael Hitchcock. That he just ends up
hitchy.
Yeah. And what else would there be? There was like the Sunday morning atheist show, where it's like praise nothing with all the children. There were a few things that were pitched, and that I had a hand in creating, but. Yeah, we weren't credited. I wasn't a credited writer necessarily.
Okay. Do you have a process for creating a character?
Well, a lot of my work in comedy is improv based, and so characters in that scenario are immediate, and it's funny when I teach improv to young children and I say, you're invisible. They immediately accept it. They immediately believe it, and they do it, and they are invisible. They do the thing. I say to an adult actor, you're invisible. And they say, well, okay, but can the audience see me? And when do I, they have a lot of questions about the reality of the invisibility, and it just doesn't happen. But I think being more like the kid, where you're just pretending it, where you're Indiana Jones in the backyard, that's how I create a character, just jumping for it, going for it, making a choice, making a physical choice and committing to it, an attitude and committing to it, an emotion and committing to it. And then out of that, you can find that person.
Oh, I love that. See, one of the things from people like writing in, making comments, I've had several people say to me that they're like, this is a free educational class for me. And that right there, so many people needed to hear exactly what you said. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Often in comedy, improv too, there's always this thing of, what if I screw up? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I, and the trick is to get off of that I. And the way to get off of that I is to be somebody else. And we all have that ability in us to do that pretending with utter commitment that we did in the backyard when we were playing Smurfs or, Little House on the Prairie or whatever your generation is. There is an imagination as children that we have that gets disintegrated. You know,
As you get older, yep.
yeah, and and that's what improv and all this sort of stuff is about, is getting back in touch with that. But yeah, creating characters is about going for it.
Oh, thank you so much. And of course, I was like, socialite Maura Rose is going to make a guest appearance.
Yeah, there she is.
Yeah, Catherine O'Hara, right here's my blind kitty. So sorry, she's already jumped up twice, and I've been able to get rid of her. We have reached the portion of my podcast where I have a sponsor. So here is the sponsor portion of Mad Rewind. So speaking of character development, there's a really great comedy club in Santa Monica called The Crow, located at the Bergamont Station Arts Center. It also happens to be a super inclusive 501c3 nonprofit theater. The Crow is one of those spaces that uses comedy and storytelling for good. I highly recommend catching a show, taking some classes to develop your comedy and your tight 10, jump up on one of their open mics, or even enroll your kids in their summer comedy camp so they can be the next Ron Pederson. Or maybe you just want to see a hilarious show in one of their 2 theaters. So please visit crowcomedy.com for classes, shows, and tickets. You did it. I have a sponsor on.
Wow.
What? Now
I'm
we go
sold.
back to Mad.
Well done.
Hey, thank you. Whew. Do you have a favorite moment that ever transpired from being on MADtv?
Wow, that's hard to pick, It's I have such a kaleidoscopic it's like a Fellini movie when I think back. Because it's such a circus, and it was always just, the work was always just happening. One particular moment. Yeah, I don't know. Some of those early days, it was just exciting to be in, Hollywood Center Studios where Lucille Ball taped their show, and, the history there. I think of meeting a lot of, what was exciting was meeting a lot of the OG cast. Yeah. Because, I watched those first few seasons. I was a perfect age. I was 17 when it came out, and in Canada, and I was just getting into improv, and we all tuned in on that first night that it premiered, because it was like Mad Magazine, the show. Like, it seemed like such a fucking brilliant idea. And then they killed it. That first, Gump Fiction, and it was amazing. And And so, yes, I got to meet Catherine O'Hara and Fred Willard, and I'm so grateful. But I got to forge friendships with, Nicole Sullivan and Will Sasso, and, and I worship Stephanie Weir and Mo Collins. It's more than a moment. It's just those people, I think, that's what I really think of when I think of MADtv. It's just how great everybody was to me, because I was coming from Canada. It was a real, it wasn't something I was searching for, to be on a sketch comedy show. So just the vibes when I joined, and how welcoming everybody was. And yeah, those early days.
What are you most proud of that you accomplished while you were on MADtv?
Well, I think because it was such a foreign left turn for me, even to be in America, and it was just it was different, and a big change, a sea change for me. So I'm just proud that I was up for it, and that I stuck out those seasons, because it was that you were always on a fault line of, and certainly those seasons that I was there, people were dropping off left and right, coming and going. So, I was glad that I achieved those 70 episodes, or 68, as you said.
Did you ever, since you were one of the actors, they would have you pitch character ideas. Did you ever have anything that was rejected? And if so, do you remember what it was? You're like, this is going to reinvent the wheel. This is going to be fantastic. And then they were like, yeah, no, it's
Well, kind of. There was one thing that we almost taped. I don't remember why it got canceled, but it was called Undercover Mountie. And it was like going to be a Canadian PI kind of show, but he's really obviously a Mountie. Like you could see his hat under the. And the idea was that it was cheap. It was a Canadian show, so there was like the set was bad and the, which isn't fair to Canadian television, but I think it opened with the CBC logo, and Jim Wise said, "You're watching Canadian television. Sorry," and it had a theme song and everything, but I don't remember why it was canceled. There was a set. Yeah, I don't remember, but it and I think it was like we're going to do it next time. Maybe we ran out of time or something, or Mo had to go or something. Because it's a big thing for Mo and I. She was like Canadian. Yeah, I don't remember, but it was certainly canceled. And I also think of this other thing that Jordan Peele and I wrote together that was Picked and Pushed. Do you remember Picked and Pushed? Do you remember what that was? That was where they would put out the list of the sketches that they picked. And then they would kind of put 3 down on the bottom and go, we like this one and we'll probably see this one again. And this idea was picked and pushed, I think, twice. Jordan and I had this idea. I think we were just fucking around in his trailer of 2 cops doing their own music. So it's like they're in the car, dun-dun, da-da-dun-dun. Dun 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 boom down, and then it cuts to them in the chief's office, and he's going, "Listen, you guys, you're out of control," and they're going, "Stop that! Would you two stop it?" They're always doing their own soundtrack, and then it built to, and I think the reason that we never made it is because it was too expensive, because it built to us hanging off of a helicopter, going and I think Scott King was like, "We can't do the helicopter." I think it was too many locations. That might have been it. We wrote a sketch that was like, it's on a helicopter, and then there's a chase, and then we're in the office, and then, so we didn't figure that out. But I always loved that idea.
We'll do what we can to bring it back.
Yeah.
I believe in it. Did you have a favorite
maybe Jordan
cast
can make
member?
Maybe Jordan can make it into an entire feature film.
Oh, there you go. If only we could get a hold of him.
I could call him.
You could?
Do you need me to call him for you, Brandee?
Could you please?
Yes.
It's been a minute. His popularity has skyrocketed out of my orbit. So
well, I still have his number.
So cool. Did you have a favorite cast member to perform with?
Wow. Again,
or was
how
it
do you
just everyone?
Yeah, I love playing with Paul Vogt. We kind of joined the show at the same time, and we both had we were paired up a bit. We did the Honeymooners, and there were a few times that we were paired up that I always had a blast with Paul. I always had a great time with Mo. Like I said, it was a baptism of fire with Mo. We always talk about, like, we literally shook hands and they were like, okay, and then you're going to make out. And so that makes comrades pretty quickly. And Jordan and Keegan, they wrote very funny bits for me to do in those Man Up sketches. I was always kind of the foil. Stephanie wrote me great things. Yeah, I was just so grateful for that kind of camaraderie.
Did you have a favorite guest star memory? You and I were talking. We were writing back and forth, and you had mentioned that you had like an amazing guest star memory.
Well, do you remember Flavor Flav? Sorry, I already did it. Flava Flav. Do you remember that night?
Yeah, I do.
It was.
And I interviewed Danielle Gaither yesterday, and she brought up Flava Flav.
She did
yesterday as well.
She did.
Yeah,
was she in that sketch? She must have been in that sketch, right? I can't remember. It was a real motherfucking talk, and Flava Flav was in it, but he didn't show up to. We were taping. It was the night of the taping. And he's late, and the taping's happening, and I've already done a sketch, and now I'm in the. We're all in the costumes for Real Motherfucking Talk, and we're in the green room, and I've got this big fro. I'm like this liberal white guy on Real Motherfucking Talk, and Michael McDonald's in it, and I think Keegan's in it, and Aries, and then Flava Flav. And he shows up, and his people are pissed because on the script, which he just read, they actually mistyped his name, and he called him Flavor. They called him Flavor Flav. Oh. So he was outraged. He was like, I can't fucking believe you called me Flav. So Dick is on the phone to the office. Can you reprint the script? We got to so they're retyping the thing. And then they realize, wait a minute. And Flavor Flav's there. We're being pushed. We got to go. The sketch has got to happen. The audience is waiting. And they figure, oh, wait a minute. The cue cards. They had cue cards for Flava Flav. And they checked. It was written Flava. So it was written right on the cue card. So they brought the poor cue card guy. Do you remember? I don't remember what his name was. They brought the cue card guy in. He's literally eating a sandwich. Like, he comes in. And he's in the tiny green room with us with these big cards. And we're reading the scene. And so we get through it. And Flava Flav doesn't like, there's a joke in it that he doesn't like about Michael Jackson. So we got to fix that. He was just being a bit of a diva. But then the sketch was being taped, and Aries improvised some Michael Jackson joke. And Flava,
I think it was Jermaine Jackson, because Danielle just brought this up yesterday. I wasn't on set for it.
Yeah, it might have just been a Jermaine Jackson joke, but Flava Flav yelled "cut" on the set, which is like a huge faux pas for anyone other than the director. Never mind a guest star to yell "cut" in front of a studio audience. And he yelled "cut," and he went off on this monologue about how well he knew Michael Jackson, and nobody's gonna insult Michael Jackson in front of him. And it was just an intense, and it felt he kind of had a posse around, and they were in the green room, sort of intimidating us. I think that was really what it was. It was just we were all just sweating beads because it was just like he was owning the room and owning us, and he was wild. Yeah, he was completely wild. And if you watch that sketch, he's completely wild. You could tell he didn't know what was happening around him. He was bonkers. And it was awesome. I also remember guest stars like Alanis Morissette was really awesome. She came in and just was so funny and nice. And I always got paired with the Canadians. Yeah, I was Avril Lavigne's boyfriend in a sketch. And yeah, but that was a crazy night with Flava Flav. But I mean, in terms of great guest stars, I mean, Eric Idle was there. It was just cool.
Yeah, we even had George Carlin. I'm always like, every now and then, I'm like, I met George Carlin.
Right.
On MADtv.
Yeah, right. And the folksmen came. I mean, they were, Spinal Tap, but at the time they were promoting A Mighty Wind, and they, Christopher Guest and Harry Shearer and Michael McKean, they all came and hung out backstage. That was so cool. Yeah.
Did you keep anything from your time at MADtv? And if so, do you still have it? Whether it was like a jacket.
Yeah, I definitely have an old sweater, I think, and my dad has a hat. He still wears the MADtv hat, my dad, I think, that I gave him. I think I have some of that merch that they gave us. I have a Fox blanket, and we always kind of got funny gifts. It depended if the gifts were from Fox, they were a little bit nicer than Girl Groove Company, which was the production company. I remember getting a keychain with a keychain.
Rubber chicken?
That's it. The rubber chicken keychain. They never lived that down. And I remember we had just heard that that 70s show cast all got like Vespas or something.
Yeah, it was either mountain bikes or Vespas.
Yeah, or like a Mini Cooper or something. And we got these keychains. Yeah, I do remember that. Those were, yeah. I mean, dude, have you talked about that on any of the podcasts? Like that 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 MADtv had this strange deal where they were kind of like renting their shows to Fox. Like, that's why there was that's why there's no, billboards, or like we were never on the cover of Us Weekly, or like, you'd think
I
that
was post-production.
You'd think that Fox would give it the same exposure as That 70s Show, or, who were people we were hanging out with and seeing.
And nothing. No, because I remember every week I would be stalked by Fox to be like, we need a rough cut so we can promote it. And then we're like, when are you going to promote it? Because we were lucky if we got a 30-second commercial on a Thursday night, then we wouldn't get anything else until the 10 o'clock news. We'd get a 30-second spot. And that was it. We got 2 promo commercials a week and nothing else. Yeah. And they made my life a living hell because they were constantly, sometimes we wouldn't lock a show until like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and it would still have to get to Post Logic for them to start pre-laying for me to do a spotting session at like 9 a.m. on Tuesday. And Fox is like, where's our locked show so we can start promoting you for something that we will never do because no one cared.
And and was that deal set up? I always felt that deal was set up so that the Girl Group Company, or what was the other Quincy Jones company?
QDE.
Yeah, QDE. It seemed like it was set up so that they could have as much power as possible. But then Quincy fucked off, and I don't think they had the leverage that they imagined that they were going to have. Yeah. I remember I got to meet Rashida Jones once, and I was like, where did Quincy go? Oh, why did he leave MADtv? That's a mystery.
It was messy. And the fact that people knew who we were meant everything. So, and the fact that people know who we are today is everything. 100%. It's the cool kids that, are going underground and finding clips, and you're like, thank you so freaking much for that. Do you stay in touch with other cast members? Like you were saying earlier that you're going to hang out with Ike coming up soon.
Yeah, I mean, just hilariously, we were just texting each other randomly, and I'll see Ike probably next month in Toronto. I mean, I haven't seen folks in a while, but Instagram is great for just chatting with. I chat with Mo and Paul every now and then, and and I've texted with Bobby a couple times over the years, a few years ago I was applying for a visa to do a show in New York, and Keegan and Jordan wrote me a letter, and Keegan also wrote me a letter of an introduction. So we're there for each other. They're there for me, that's for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you have any advice for anyone starting out in comedy today?
Wow. I always say just get your reps, get stage time. And that's a hard thing to do in this day and age, I find. There's all these schools, everybody's fighting for stage time. But that is where it happens, I think. For me, it was just, it's those 10,000 hours they talk about. It's getting up as much as you can. And it's also exploring variety. For me, being able to do Shakespeare and also do, The Music Man, and then improvise and do a new Canadian play, and, do a long form improv, do a short form improv. All those things feed into each other. Marathons and sprints are important.
It just occurred to me that I didn't get a chance to ask you this earlier, so I'm going to backtrack just a moment. Mm-hmm. You were doing 7 a.m. condo report on the Rascal scooter when you were Little Rascal on your Rascal. Uh-huh. Did you injure yourself, or did you? Because it just seems like it would just take off.
And yeah, I think you can probably see me run over Josh Meyer's foot in one of them. I remember that going around the circle because we were sort of improvising some madness at some point. It got pretty wild. Sometimes they would get a little wild. And I remember backing into a thing. I remember once backing up. I think we may have planned this and not told Stephanie, but I found out that if I backed up, the rascal would catch her chair and take her back too. Yeah, it was. It was. I hit Lauren Dombrowski during rehearsal too. Ran right into her. Oh yeah. I felt really bad about that. Ron, the fuck are you doing?
Yes. Oh, I love that woman. She's what a loss that we don't have her.
And and we, I didn't really talk about Michael Hitchcock and Jim Wise and Rich Tellerico and Bruce McCoy, Chris Cluse, those guys, all those writers, they were so good to me.
Yeah. Every time I would go run up to the writer side, it was always a treat. I would never leave to go back to my office without a giant smile on my face or, being up there snort laughing with snot coming out my, because it was just so much fun.
I just love to sit and listen to Rich Tellerico.
I need to get him on the show.
Oh,
I need to stalk him.
Oh yes. I talk to him sometimes.
Oh, you do? Well, tell him to come on the show. Tell Ike first.
Okay.
Then get Tellerico. Track me down.
Jordan, Ike, we're learning your priorities here.
Yes, thank you. Do you have any parting words for fans of MADtv?
Oh God, I love running into MADtv fans. We don't have as many as them in Canada. I feel I love coming back to going to New York. I always seem to run into somebody that goes, "Are you that Clay Aiken guy?" Somehow Clay Aiken was I don't know why that is the touchstone for me, but which is funny too. You talk about creating characters. We used to get, impressions thrust upon us. I remember having to do Martin Scorsese, but that Clay Aiken, I specifically remember going, "Who the fuck is this?" I had a tape, and it was before a table read, and I hadn't looked at the tape. I was like, "Oh yeah, Clay Aiken." I had a couple of lines. It was a very short, the first time he appeared. And I put the tape in and I watched it. It was him on Oprah, and they were like, "Ron, it's time for the table read." And I'm like, "Just a second." I'm fast forwarding, trying to see Clay Aiken, and he came out onto Oprah and he winked into the camera, and that was it. So that was, as you say, you just need one thing and then follow through. So the wink, I just started winking at everybody. And I still didn't know who he was.
Becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, like Kenny Rogers kind of thing. Started out and just completely morphs into something completely different.
That's it. And like those years before I joined MADtv were run by some people that were a bit more absurd. By the time I got there, it was a bit more pop culture parody centric. They were kind of back on track of reality TV and all that sort of thing. But that Will Sasso, Kenny Rogers, I mean, that is so inspiring. And I did think of that. We did that with Clay Aiken, and for some reason we just made him more glamorous each time you saw him. He was in a fur coat, or we'd just have a little bit more eyeliner on. It wasn't very fair to him, but it was funny. And I met his manager once. I met his manager once at one of those Fox parties, and I was like, "Does he hate me?" And they're like, "No, we think it's hilarious." So
he has a sense of humor.
I think
good.
So. I guess so.
Where can fans of MADtv find you on the socials?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm only kind of on Instagram. I'm Ron_Pederson. You can find me there. I'm going to be doing the Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal, if you're there, next month. Performing in Heated Rivalry, the parody musical, which is running off Broadway right now. My friend has produced it, and we're going to do a concert version of it in Montreal, and then do a run of it later in.
And here comes your full circle of hockey.
And now, I'm back to it.
Back to being a Canadian hockey player again.
Very good.
Well, Ron, thank you so so very much
Oh my God.
for coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate it. I know we're like fighting your connection with the Wi-Fi there a little bit.
Oh, really? Oh dear. I'm sorry.
No, Kyle's a genius. Kyle and Teresa Tucker, the engineers will.
I'm just so far away. This foreign country.
I know. If only there was, a way to communicate better. But thank you so much. I'm just going to throw a Hail Mary and see if I can get Ron. And you said yes. And I'm like, yes, this is incredible. So I hope our paths cross again in person sometime soon. Knock on marble table.
Me too. And thanks for doing this. It's been really awesome to listen to some of the podcasts, and it's, I love thinking about MADtv.
Thank you. We've hit the credit portion of Mad Rewind. The studio venue is located between the largest IKEA in the United States and the 5 freeway, just south of fancy downtown Burbank. Please visit thestudiovenue.com for all of your podcast needs. Mad Rewind is produced by Dan Holden and Lily Romero, engineered by Kyle and Teresa Tucker, edited by Kyle Tucker, and hosted and executive produced by me, Brandee Stilwell. Woo-woo! You guys, thank you so much for spending your time with me. Again, I know that there's so many choices of podcasts these days. So I really, really thank you for paying attention and for liking, subscribing, resharing our little train that could. So thank you so much. You are so appreciated. XOXO me. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Bye.
It's time for Mad Rewind, Mad